All right. What is up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Help Me Understand podcast. I'm your host, Coach J.K. McLeod, and we're coming to you with another fitness and nutrition related episode. Today, I'm going to walk you through a very quick little assessment that you can do at the end of the quarter. At the time that this is being recorded and released, it is October 1st, 2025. So for those of you who follow any sort of a quarterly calendar, we've got October, November, and December as what we'll call Q4 of 2025. And I want to share with you a basic and simple format that you can use to assess where you are based on your expenditures, we'll call them, in the last quarter, and how you potentially can make some adjustments, keep things the same, make some improvements, whatever the case may be, going into the fourth quarter of the year. And this is definitely something that's not just reserved for going from Q3 to Q4. You can use this any time. And the process is going to be called the quarterly F.A.T.T assessment. So before getting into that, first, as always, I want to say thank you for choosing to press play on the Help Me Understand podcast. I know that you have no shortage of podcast content that you can consume, so I truly, truly never take it for granted that you chose to press play on Help Me Understand. I am going to ask that you do me one simple favor, and that is, if you have not done so recently, to hop on whatever podcast platform you are listening to and leave a rating and or review. If you happen to be on YouTube, if you could subscribe to the channel, that'd be even better. Just doing what you can to help me spread the word about the Help Me Understand podcast. We promise at least one episode each week that will be fitness related, and then anything else beyond that is just the cherry on top. All right, so let's get back into what I want to talk about with you today. And again, I don't intend this one to be, say, like more than about maybe 30 minutes at the most here. And what I want to share with you is what I'm going to call a quarterly F.A.T.T assessment. So where this is coming from, and the acronym is F.A.T.T, and that stands for finances, attention, thoughts, and things. So some context on where this is coming from is that I am a business owner. So I own my own personal training business, along with also having a full-time career in the retail management field. So one of my business coaches and a business cohort that I'm a part of walked us through doing an assessment going into the fourth quarter of the year around our businesses. So taking some time to really print out statements, go through the data, and get an understanding of where the health of our business is right now. So while I'm not going to walk you through that, it really got my gears turning and thinking about how this time of the year, this basically transition out of summer going into fall and then getting into the holiday season. So the fall season going into winter very, very often is one of those time frames where business tends to uptick in the fitness industry. And a very common mindset or a common theme this time of the year is, yeah, I had the best of intentions to either get in pretty good shape over the summer, or at least like maintain. However, I feel like my habits really just fell off, and slowly but surely, like I just got way too comfortable. I got way too flexible over the summer. So I just need to tighten things up here over September, October, and most of November, knowing that the holiday season, there's going to be just a whole different structure. If you're somebody who's got kids, then perhaps your kids are going to be in and out of school depending on what their breaks look like. It seems like the common theme is that sickness, whether it's cold, flu, whatever it may be, the seasonal things really start to pop up over the winter. Then you've also, for some of us, have more travel. Some of us may pick up at work, some may decline. There's just a whole lot of different things going on. So this period of time, this September and October, is a very popular time, at least from my point of view, and then many of the other coaches that I'm connected to. This is a very popular time to really, where people really like lock in, as the young folks like to say, and really dig deep in their fitness goals, knowing that they don't want the holidays to get too out of control with additional events, stress, changes in structure, and all that stuff. So what I did is I took basically the thought process that we're working through in one of two business groups that I'm in, and I'm applying somewhat applying that thought process to your overall fitness. And I'm calling it again a quarterly fat assessment, FATT, because a very common theme or a common term, we talk about fat loss in the fitness industry. Now, if you've listened to, let's say, more than two episodes, or specifically more than two fitness focused episodes of the Help Me Understand podcast, I would hope that you know that I talk about more than just fat loss. In fact, I don't know that I talk about it more than I think I probably talk about it very, very little. A lot of what I intend to really focus on and what I value is ensuring that people have an understanding of the importance of basic foundational fitness habits and maintenance and getting stronger and feeling better, and understanding that fat loss is a byproduct of many of those particular things. However, listen, this is fitness. A piece of the fitness coaching industry requires a certain level of marketing, and acronyms tend to work. So I'll just be straight up with you. I came up with FATT, the fat assessment, because it's just an easy one to use. So if you are offended by this in any way, shape, or form, I totally understand if you don't want to listen to the rest of this because you're like, I'm tired of fat loss. But here we go. All right. So FATT stands for finances, attention, thoughts, and things. So these are four things that I want you to ask yourself about the last quarter of the year. So we are currently in October. So that would have been July, August, and September. So July, August, and September. If you think back to those particular months, and this is not something that you just do in like 2 minutes and you're good to go. This is going to require doing some work. So for myself, it required, I'm looking down at my phone, it required grabbing my phone and scrolling back through my calendar, scrolling back through my camera roll so that I could look at like screenshots of workouts and different events and things that I may have gone to. We just got through my son's junior high baseball season, which, by the way, shout out to my son Mace and his team at Evans Junior High here in Bloomington, Illinois. They're the Class 3A state baseball champions. So just gotta throw that in there for Mace and his team. So, anyways, for me to do this fat assessment, I went back through my calendar, went back through different things in my phone, different lists. I have a notebook that I typically will write notes in and just thoughts throughout the day. I went back through that, and then also went back through a notes file where I've been logging weekly, doing basically a check-in with myself and then my accountability partner. We may share a bit about that in a later episode, but I've got an accountability partner where we are both focused on particular things, and we just drop notes into the accountability notes folder. It's a shared notes file on iPhone that we both drop our stuff into each week. So went back and scrolled through that to see what things were looking like. And so I took all of that information and then I answered these four questions according to the FATT acronym. So I'm going to pass these on to you and I'll share some of my thoughts with what I found when I did this fat assessment. So here's the four things that you ask yourself. So first, you take a look at your finances. So that would also require, for most of us, looking back through bank statements, Venmo accounts, all that good stuff. So the question that you're asking is, from a financial standpoint, where are you spending your resources? And for the purposes of this particular episode, I'm focused specifically on fitness. So when you think about fitness and you think about the foundational habits that contribute to your fitness, which would be the three things that I talk about: eat well, sleep enough, and exercise regularly. So eat well, sleep enough, exercise regularly. When I think about my finances, where am I spending resources? Where am I spending my money as it relates to my foundational fitness habits? The easiest thing that I think about is, what have my spending habits looked like when it comes to my nutrition? And for me, I can give you a very, very like real specific example. What I looked at is that I was getting DoorDash a bit more often than I really needed to. And an example would be when I would go into work, I would have a prepped meal. There were times where I just wasn't in the mood to eat that prepped meal and decided I was just going to DoorDash something instead. So it wasn't that I ran out of time or anything like that. In fact, it took longer to wait for the DoorDash, which was, let's say 20 minutes on average, than it would have for me to just heat up and eat the prepared meal that I had. So when I'm going back through and looking at my bank statements, looking at my financial statements, just seeing from a financial standpoint, asking myself, where am I spending my resources, my financial resources in relation to my foundational fitness habits? What I've found is that something I can improve is my DoorDash habits. So I would say that I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but let's say it was probably twice a week that I may have gotten DoorDash on average over the last, or actually one to two times per week, I would say, over the past few months. Now, for some of y'all, you may say, well, that doesn't actually seem like that much. It's really not that much. What it is, and this is kind of one of the points here, it's not about, okay, what am I doing that's just absolutely completely derailing me, or what am I doing that's just messing everything up? It's not always going to be about that. Sometimes, and many times, for myself and for people that I work with, it's not about these things that are massive. It's just these little things that just compounded over time tend to slowly veer us from one lane into the next lane, into the next lane, and the next lane. And the next thing we know, all of a sudden we've moved from, the middle lane on the 5 or 6 lane highway all the way over to the right in the slow lane. And we're like, how did we drift all the way over here? So for me, each time, for the most part, I would say that out of, let's say if it was 20 times that I might have used DoorDash, I would say reasonably, I feel pretty certain that 10 of those 20 times I had a meal that was prepared and could have gone with that instead, and I just wasn't feeling it. Like I just wasn't in the mood. And that's actually going to relate to something in one of the other categories. So when it comes to where I'm spending my resources, by taking the time to take a look at where that money was going, I've decided I'm actually just going to go ahead and cancel my DoorDash subscription. Now, I think it's like $10 a month or something like that. So it's not necessarily about saving the money. It's more about being more aware of when I'm changing my mind and deciding to go that route as opposed to with the prepared meal that I already had. I also use DoorDash for a couple of other things. I actually used it to send my wife some flowers to work and different things like that. So there are some let's call it like non-fitness related things that I will use DoorDash for. However, at the end of the day, more often than not, I'm using it for convenience where I don't really need that convenience. So that's going to be your first piece of the F.A.T.T assessment. Take a look at your finances and ask yourself, where are you spending your resources right now? So if there are places where you're spending your money and that's helpful, then fantastic. Like I'm spending money on a gym membership. I'm not cutting that out. I don't need to change anything about that right now. I'm going to keep that rolling where it is. But for me, again, taking a look at eating out habits and DoorDash and things like that, that was somewhere where I'm going to make a bit of an adjustment. For you, it may also specifically be looking at how many meals you're eating out versus, the amount of money you're spending eating out versus the amount of money that you're spending on prepared meals where you have the option to prepare those meals. So that's your first F. It's going to be finances. All right. The second letter is A, and that stands for attention. So the question that you're going to ask yourself there is, where are you currently spending your time? So again, thinking through the filter of the fitness foundations, eat well, sleep enough, exercise regularly, take a look at where are you currently spending your time and your attention. And something that stood out to me, this was a very slight change, and it has to do with social media. So a move that I made quite a while back, I'd say over a year ago, maybe even further, was slowly but surely started to really pare down the number of accounts that I was following just generally through my coaching page. So I think right now I'm following, let's take a look real quick here. This will be really, really quick here. All right. So as of right now, I'm following 161 people, and I have a goal, or 161 pages, I should say, because I'm pretty sure there's some products there too. I've set a goal by the end of the year to have it down to 150 or less, and then like that's the cap is so that's a change that I've slowly but surely made over time. what I found after doing another kind of scroll through and thinking about the past quarter is that slowly but surely I was being more drawn to content and pages that were focused a lot on what I'm going to call out content, and call out content being where they're doing a lot of the stitched reels where, someone will make a statement and then they're reacting to that statement, calling that statement out, calling that person out for misinformation, false information, misleading information, and things like that. And why I'm bringing this up is because what I found is that I myself was spending more time consuming call out content than I was consuming content that I could really do something with. It wasn't content that I could take then that actually provokes some really good thoughts. So or some that provoked some thinking where, okay, let me dig a little bit deeper into this particular topic. What I found more often than not is that at times when I would consume that, what I'm going to call, I think maybe that's the official term, I don't know, the call out content, I would find myself just creating my own echo chamber because it wasn't that I was following accounts or consuming content, because some of it I wasn't really following. It just that my algorithm picked up on the fact that that's what I was viewing. What it was is that as I would be consuming this content, it would just be more and more of confirming things that I already thought, believed, and slash knew already. So, for example, if I'm following an account or continuing to consume content that talks about how women wearing a weighted vest it's being made out and marketed to be something that is like this absolutely like earth shattering, life changing thing. I'm aware of that now, or at least I have that as a pretty firmly entrenched belief now that while there is nothing inherently quote unquote wrong with wearing a weighted vest, more often than not, it's not the fix or the solve that it's being marketed to be. I don't really need to listen to any more of that. At this point, I've had those conversations with clients who were interested in having that conversation and have talked about it at the gym and different things like that. So that's just a particular example, but just asking myself, okay, where am I currently spending my time? And is it helping, or is it basically just kind of creating more of an echo chamber for me? So that's the question that you would ask yourself, is where are you spending your attention? If for you, what you've noticed is an uptick in consuming particular content, like maybe you went from watching one or two reality shows to now you've like the algorithm is going to get you, like it's grabbed you, like Netflix has got you in a chokehold and you've now watched Love is Blind in like 37 different languages with the really interesting dubbing and whatnot over it, the audio dubbing, and all of a sudden you're like, what just happened, like where did my time go? Then that's something that is taking up more of your attention. When there is an uptick in things that are going on from a politics standpoint, you and only you can decide if the amount of attention and time that you are giving to those particular topics is appropriate, and if it's helping or if it's potentially slowing your process down. Because a lot of times for the folks that I work with and that I talk to, and even for myself, a lot of times when that's happening, that can be at night. And so that's where we start to get into the ever feared like doom scroll, and then next thing we know, we are like 37 episodes deep in something going on with like true crime, and then that linked to another one. Like that is one thing that is just crazy, is how good algorithms continue to get at really just kind of dragging, like pulling you along the rabbit hole of things. Like YouTube for a while, like definitely had me in a chokehold. And the little like pro tip, something that I've learned is just to clear your YouTube history every once in a while, and it basically needs to relearn you all over again. So I thought I'd pass that on because that's something that I've done a couple of times. All right, so that's your second letter. So first we've got finances, then we've got attention, and then we're on the last two, and I'll speed this up just a little bit. So the first T in your FAT assessment is going to be your thoughts. So when I'm talking about your thoughts, what I want you to think about here, get the pun, thoughts, what I want you to think about. So this isn't specifically like where are you putting your attention. It's what sort of thoughts are you having that are either leading to a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? Like, what sort of thoughts have you had? What's the current line of thinking that you're on related to your foundational fitness habits, where you believe like you're staying pretty open-minded and growth mindset focused, or you possibly are starting to be more closed. Maybe you're even starting to find that you're giving yourself excuses, and I'm self-projecting here, so I'll share with you what mine are. There's two specific things that I jotted down as far as when I assessed over the past 3 months. So this is 3 months in totality. And to be fair, what I'm focused on here with the assessment and what I'm sharing with you on this particular way that I'm doing the assessment is looking at a lot of opportunities. It is just as important to take a look at things that are going well and things that you want to continue too. Just for the purposes of somewhat being brief, like somewhat brief here, I'm just focused on getting an understanding of assessing your opportunities. So there's two areas that I jotted down. One is that periodically I have started to develop a I'll do it later sort of mindset. So two specific things were, I would say, in the month of July and most of August, I was pretty consistent with getting in my cardio and getting in short walks throughout the day on days where I'd be at my desk doing a lot of programming and calls and recordings and things like that. What I noticed is back half of the quarter, especially leading up to these last about 4 to 5 weeks, slowly but surely that mindset of I'll do it later, like I'll push it to a different time frame. I don't really have to do it now because I believe that I'm going to have more flexibility later, whether it be for getting in a zone 2 cardio session, a short interval session, whether it be for going for a 15 to 20 minute walk, any of those things. I was just finding that more than I'm comfortable with, I was saying I'll do it later. And this is something that, really being as transparent as I want to be here as a coach, I'm talking with my clients about this pretty regularly. And one of my like tried and true tips is when the opportunity to do something presents itself the first time, do it then. Like, do it then. Even if you believe that you've got the most flexible back half of the day ever, the the chance of life not having something that occurs that then swoops in to say, like, by the way, that 4 hour window that you thought you had, I'm gonna take that. If you have the opportunity, so say you're gonna get in a 15-minute walk and that opportunity opens up between a couple of meetings or a couple of tasks or right after lunch or whatever it may be, if you think to yourself, well, I'll just do it later because I don't really have anything going on after dinner, just go ahead and do it now. And then if you still have that time frame after dinner, then cool, you just get in another 15-minute walk. So that was one thing when it comes to assessing the thoughts, like what's my thought process been? What's my mindset been around foundational fitness habits? That was one, was the I'll do it later. And then the second one, I found that I have had an opportunity with not establishing specific guidelines or specific deadlines, excuse me. So specific deadlines for what I'm going to call like short to medium term goals on the way to my overall long term goals. So I have long-term goals, things that I want to accomplish in 1 year. I'll consider that long-term, like 1 year and further out. And what I had found is there's a couple of things that and one thing specifically that I had identified, okay, I'm going to have this particular thing accomplished and ready to say that is done by X date, and that date was about a year out. And what I found is that my friend Ashley says this, like, I found myself kicking the can down the road, just continually, okay, well, I don't really need to do a whole lot with that now because that deadline's not till much later. And I have found that that was an opportunity. So not establishing specific deadlines for short to medium term goals on the way to the long-term goals. So this particular quarter, October, November, December, I'm flipping the script on that, and I'm taking those particular things and I'm setting 30-day goals on my way to the 1 year goal. So there's a particular goal that I have in mind and established that I want by December of 2026. So I'm putting in 30-day goals on my way to that. So that is the first T in the FAT assessment. And then the last T, which is kind of just a bonus or an add-on, is things. So asking yourself, what do you need to keep and what can go, literally in terms of things that are either like helping with your foundational fitness habits or hurting with your foundational fitness habits? Are there particular things that you have? An example that comes up here is a conversation I was having with someone who has done a really solid job of achieving some pretty significant physique and strength goals over this past, it's been a little less than a year. So a little less than a year. And one of the things that they had shared with me is like, they're like, I don't know why I keep holding on to these particular clothes. And they were clothes that they had worn. I would say that they're down about, I can't remember the number. I want to say it's under 50 pounds, but I can't remember if it's like 20 to 30. I can't remember. But anyways, they're down a significant amount of weight while also really, I mean, just a complete shift in their physique and feeling way better than they've ever felt before. Ton of energy, no longer like just the random crashes and mood swings and different things like that. And one of the things that they had talked about when we were talking about this FAT assessment is they said, when it comes to like the things, I'm holding on to a whole bunch of clothes that I'm never going to need these anymore. Like I don't need them. I don't need to keep them. They can absolutely go because all they're doing is just giving me like this fallback plan because these are multiple sizes bigger than where they currently are. Like even like right now, they're no longer interested in like trying to have a significant amount of weight loss. They're within a range that they're very comfortable with. And now it's all about like what we call, they just want to get jacked and juicy now. And even if they do get like uber jacked and juicy, they're still not going to go up like 5, 6 sizes. Like that's how much weight, or excuse me, that's how many inches this individual has lost or gotten rid of. So, when it comes to the things, it's literally like physical things. Like what are you holding on to right now? And do you need to continue to hold on to it? Or are there things that you can go ahead and get rid of? So thinking about it, you can think about it in terms of clothes. You can think about it in terms of, again, and I'm about to wrap up, in terms of this particular episode, I know that I'm talking more from the opportunities standpoint, hopefully not coming across as super negative here. However, if we're really focused on the opportunities, it's basically like, should it stay or should it go? Thinking about like decluttering, like really thinking through, okay, these things that I currently have, or this thing that I currently have, is that helping or not? So there you go. All right. So just to run you through really quick, the 4 pieces of the FAT assessment, F-A-T-T, and this is something you can do monthly. You can do it quarterly. I suggest quarterly because it gives you way more to work with. So you're looking at your finances. Where are you spending your financial resources? You're looking at attention. Where are you currently spending your time? You're looking at your thoughts. Where are you currently fully like bought into a growth mindset, and where do you still have somewhat of a fixed mindset? Again, all of this is related to your foundational fitness focused habits. And then certainly last, but certainly not least, things. What do you right now physically, what are things that you have that you can go ahead and let them go because they're not really helping? And what are things that you definitely need to make sure you keep? You need to hold on to those, or maybe even move to a more prominent spot because it's something that's helpful for you. And that's what I will end with too. Something physical like that I need to keep is a Pomodoro timer. I use a Pomodoro timer. If you're watching on video, it's just this really inexpensive thing that I got off of Amazon, and it has timers of 10 minutes, 25 minutes, 5 and 50 minutes. And I can just pop this on, stay focused for that certain amount of time. The buzzer will go off. I flip it over. It gives me a 5-minute break, then go back to work for 20, 25 minutes, whatever the case may be. So that is a physical thing. That is a thing that I am going to continue and really use with more frequency because when I do use it, I tend to stay on task and stay focused really well. All right. So with that, we are going to go ahead and call this an episode. So if you have listened this long, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Help Me Understand podcast. If you have ideas for topics, content, questions, anything fitness related or otherwise, shoot me a DM on Instagram at Coach JK McLeod, MCLEOD, or you can email me, jk@jkmcleod.com. Both of those pieces will be in the show notes. So Once again, thank you for listening. I sincerely appreciate it. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next time.